All right, all right. We're back with another ATC Special Edition podcast. I'm Scott Jones, your host with Addiction Training Center, and I want to remind you that if you like this show or any of the content, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, the ATC Network, which you're watching right now. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bar so that way you'll find out when we have other shows coming your way. And as always, check us out at atceducation.com. and find out all the great things we're doing at ATC. Today we got a special guest, a friend of mine, and somebody I met years ago, briefly, and now we've come back into contact again. This is Joe Kelley, who is a retired police officer from Massachusetts, is now working down here in South Florida in the addiction industry, working with Legacy, which is a fantastic operation. You got a book out. There's so many things that we're going to cover I want to tell you about. But first, Joe, how are you, brother?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
I'm pleased to have you, man. It's been a while. We first met years ago.
Yeah.
Probably when you first got down here and we're deciding to put this together or help people.
Yeah, around the middle of it. But
things didn't work out there, which actually was good because that place didn't work out either. So
timing is everything.
Timing is everything. Had you come on board, you would have hated me.
I don't know, Scott.
But anyway, let's talk a bit. So you were a police officer up in Massachusetts.
I was.
9 years. Now, is that a normal stretch? I mean, I'm wondering because when I hear about police officers, you usually don't hear I've been a police officer for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually shorter stretches. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I within my book I tell the full story, but the highlighted version of it is, I graduated from college. I joined the police academy. I was a police officer for 9 years, but prior to going into the police academy, I had to have surgery on my knee. They said 8 years later, you're going to have surgery again.
Wow.
Well, 8 years, almost to the day, I had to have surgery again. But during that time, I was on the police force. I had seen a lot of things through some of the stuff that we deal as police officers. My marriage at the time was very rocky. I didn't get along too well with a couple of the staff members that were there. And when I went into surgery, when I got out, they had prescribed me a very high, painkiller.
Right.
And at first, I've never been the type of person to sit on the couch or, ice my wounds or however you want to say it. I took these pain medications as prescribed, but they weren't getting me off of the couch. So I started taking more and more, to do the things that I like to do. I'm a washed up athlete at this point. I played college football, college baseball. I didn't want to sit there any longer. And these pills gave me the ability to go and do the things I wanted to do. Subconsciously though, during that time, like I said, my marriage was rocky. It started to, which I didn't know at the time that I know now. It was when she was giving me a hard time. It kind of blocked that out. When I was stressed out with the kids, because I had 2 young kids at the time, it blocked that out. I had a lieutenant that was constantly on me. It blocked that out.
So what started was as medicating the pain now became medicating your life.
Yes.
And hiding from your life.
Yes. And it started off slowly, and it turned into a perfect storm sooner or later, so to speak.
This is a story we hear a lot,
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to spend the time because I really want to talk about your book and what you're doing now. But
sure.
But I kind of want to paint the picture for people. A lot of people fall into this with medications and going through doctors and starting out to do the right thing the right way, and then it becomes something different. Right. Did you see it happening? Did you really or was it like all of a sudden one day you're like, what the hell happened?
That's, towards the end of the story, when I came to reality and I looked up and I was at some of the places that addiction took me, I was like, what happened? But during the process, the only thing that I cared about was getting back to doing the things that I wanted to do and whatever it took to do that. Right. And because of my status within the community, because of who I was, not to mention I was, a police officer for, at that time, 7.5, 8 years. I also was from the next town over. I was the star. I was the big fish in the little pond.
Right.
Yeah. Everyone knew me. I could you want to talk about manipulation? I could manipulate the best of them to get what I wanted. And you'll hear a lot of it in the book about my trials and tribulations through it. But I can remember, going to the hospital after shift one night in full uniform because I had ran out of what I needed, to feel well for the pain, but also for the emotional stuff that I was going through. And they gave me what I wanted. And this was back in 2007-ish. That was going on. So it wasn't as open, and the laws that they have in place now in terms of that type of stuff, I probably wouldn't have gotten away with it.
They tightened that up a lot since
they have tightened it up a lot.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, a lot. Good. At least the way that I would go and get things at that time. But like anything, I mean, I tell it all the time. It doesn't matter if you're from Yale or jail. I mean, addiction affects everybody.
Absolutely. I love that. The Yale to jail. And I just wanted to make that point that it's not like, you purposefully were trying to destroy things.
No.
You actually thought that was a way to make things better, and you didn't see them getting worse.
Yeah, and that's correct.
Until you were way down the rabbit hole.
Like my story in the beginning was one that, I think everybody would want. College, I went to college, I played ball, I loved my life. I got married, I had 2 beautiful daughters. I had a take-home cruiser. I was on the emergency response team for Southern Massachusetts. I implemented the canine unit. I had everything that you could possibly want at my age. And to say that I wanted to give that up, no. But, obviously with addiction and my actions, I ended up doing that. I ended up giving that stuff up.
Did that bring alcohol into the mix as well?
If with my story, did I mix alcohol here and there? Yeah, I did. But alcohol was never really a big part of my story.
Okay, so that was not your drug of choice, as they call it.
Correct.
So it was the other thing. So let's skip forward. You're getting sober, and you're going through recovery. You're doing all of that. Mm-hmm. What's the switch? Where's the switch from the police officer, first responder, which thank you for your service and everything you've done. Yeah. What's the switch from that to now I'm going to work with people?
Well, I'll tell you what, everyone gets off at, I call it the elevator system.
Yeah.
Some people have to crash and burn and get to the bottom. And obviously some people pass away, unfortunately.
Yeah.
With my story, I wish I got off at a different level than I got off of. My story, there's a lot that goes into it, but it started out with doing stuff like that. And it ended with, in the end, it was shooting heroin, to be honest with you.
Wow. Okay.
So it started out with pills and ended out with shooting heroin in the end. And where that got me was sitting in a jail cell, looking up and going, excuse my language, like, how did I get here?
Yeah.
How did I get here? And it was within a year. And I've always been that type of person. Anything that I've gone after, anybody that knows me knows I'm very persistent. I can motivate myself with the best of them. But I had 2 gears. It was either full go or no go. And when I'm full go, I'm hoping that's in the right direction. And during that time of my life, it wasn't, for a year.
You're talking about a police officer, a first responder, and being a police officer, it's that extra level because now you're facing criminals, not just danger, but people. Sure. And you've got a gun and you've got all those things. So I think people are kind of like, well, that's probably a rarity to have somebody with an addiction and, they're taking pills. He's talking about heroin and he was a cop. It happens more than we want to admit, doesn't it? Yeah. And I am not, believe me, I will defend police, first responders, fire, doctors, nurses, military, all of them, paramedics, all of the work they do, I will defend it with my life. And I appreciate the people, but there's a lot of problems there that are going unsolved. Is that a mission for you in some way?
It's become my life's mission. Though I work in the field of addiction, it's my heart is with first responders because I never want somebody, I don't care if you're a first responder or not, I help anybody, but sure. Because of my background, there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of things that regular folk don't know about it. And I've dedicated my life to helping people like me. I travel the country. I speak at different police academies. I can get into different police departments because of my story. Today, the department that I used to work at, I couldn't show my face there for quite some time.
Wow.
For quite some time. But now,
now, is that because of them or because of your own shame, do you think?
I think it was a little bit of both.
Okay.
Because obviously a lot of my actions, people thought they knew who I was.
Okay.
And I try to say I wasn't a bad person. I made some bad choices and bad decisions under the influence. And I own that. And that's part of, I would say that I don't feel sorry for myself, because everything that I went through, whether it was prison, whether it was the past mistakes and everything else, was I ashamed of it? Yeah. Do I wish I could change it? Yeah.
Certainly.
But obviously it made me who I am today.
Yeah.
I'm a better father for it. I'm a better husband for it. I'm a better employee for it. I'm a better man, I believe, for it. And I believe you learn from your mistakes. And the frustrating part about a lot of that, with anybody that's in addiction is that comeback story, is how do you come back? The jails are filled with a lot of nonviolent criminal drug offenses.
Right.
And on top of that, stepping out of there, when you have a record, it's hard to get jobs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, I made some mistakes. Like before 2009, I had no criminal record. After 2009, I had no criminal record. My whole entire criminal record is of 2009. And I don't believe that should be a life sentence.
No, absolutely not. Certainly we are responsible. And you said we own our behaviors.
Right.
And saying I was drunk is not an excuse, or I was high is not an excuse. Not as far as when it comes to paying consequences. We have to pay them. But the consequences should be for that incident and paid to that incident, not affect the rest of your life when it is a singular mistake. Right. Or a problem with addiction.
And going back to first responders, Scott, you had asked the question, it's out there more than people know. We're human beings.
Yeah.
We're human beings that are put in tough situations. And we see a lot of stuff that normal people don't see. A lot of stuff can result from that. And what I do is, I go around and I tell my story so people in those positions don't feel alone. Because the one thing that you're taught early on is to ask for help. Well, we've been ingrained in first responders that
you are the help.
You're the command presence there.
Yeah.
So to switch off that switch to say, hey, you know what? I need help. We think, at least for me, back in the early 2000s and stuff, it's like, I didn't want to be stigmatized.
Yeah.
I didn't want to, everything that I've worked for in my life led up to that point. And now for me to ask for help or admit that I had done some shameful things, I felt like it would take everything away from me. Little did I know that I was going to give it all away by not asking for help.
Absolutely. And it's one of the missions of Addiction Training Center is to get and work with first responders. We have our nonprofit, One Brother, One Sister, that is about working with fire departments, and we're trying to get into police and do that, where they help each other, because it's easier to turn to your brother in arms.
Absolutely.
For a hand. So if we train everybody to help each other with these issues, maybe we can make some improvements. But I applaud what you're doing, and you come out with this book. Now, is this like your story? It's called Badge, Bars, and Beyond.
Yes, it is. It's my story. Over the years, a lot of people have been asking me to do the book. I've had reporters contact me earlier on, and I've put it off because I can tell you this: if I told you my story 9 years ago, and I told you it today, they'd probably be completely different because of perspective.
Right.
Not that I'm lying about it. It was just my perspective at the time.
Yeah.
So I allowed some time to go by, for me to heal, for me to make amends with certain things that were affected through my addiction, to do the best that I can and to work on myself. And now I feel it's time to do the book, and I'm writing the book, because I think I want people to read it, but more importantly, I want people to learn from it.
So it's not available yet?
No, it's not. I'm looking to launch it probably beginning of the summertime. Right now I don't like to compete with the big man in red,
So So beginning of the summer. Now they can keep track of how you're doing on the book at badgesbarsandbeyond.com.
Right.
So that way they can check that out. Badges, Bars, and Beyond. Oh
So
no, not and.
Badge Bars
Badge Bars Beyond. Badgebarsbeyond.com. It'll be on the screen for you. Badgebarsbeyond.com. Follow that, and and then you'll know when the book's coming out. Are you finding some sort of, because most of the people watching this are in recovery, because that's
Sure.
most of our audience, and everybody always says, I just really should I write a book or something like. Did you find it difficult to start writing this thing, or was it cathartic, or what's your experience putting your life story on paper?
It's humbling. It brings me back to some things that I don't really like to relive. But I look at the overall of it is, what is the book's purpose? And for me, it's to help more. It's to help more people. It's to put myself out there. One thing that I've learned along the way is being vulnerable creates growth. It's like coming on this podcast. I've never done a podcast. I feel vulnerable being up here, and I feel vulnerable speaking because I'm concerned about how I'll come off if I say the right thing or the wrong thing.
Right.
But then it's more, I'm just going to be myself, and I know that what I'm doing is for good. That's my intention. And for me, writing the book now, it feels great, because the one thing I can't ever change is some of the nasty things that I've done that you'll hear in the book. You'll hear some stories. But what it allows me to do by telling this book and helping other people is it wasn't all for nothing. I can turn a negative into a positive somehow. And that's what I try to do. I have people that have contacted me recently from my past that know I'm writing a book, that have questions, You're
not going to be putting that in the book, are
right,
you?
Right. Yeah. They have questions, concerns of, if I'm going to bring this up or bring that up. And I say this, listen, I'm just telling my story.
Yeah.
I'm telling my story from my perspective in the hopes that it can help somebody out there.
And certainly some of the stories you probably have to make some adjustments to because of the fact that you were a police officer at the time, and there's things that you can't write about
right
in certain ways, but you can still just tell the story.
Yeah, I can give
without
story.
The specifics and stuff.
Absolutely. Not mentioning names or stuff like that, but it's important that, especially for first responders that do read this, that they know they're not alone, know that somebody else has gone through this. And at least today, I see it more and more. The officers, the firemen, the veterans, whoever I speak to, and I go and visit, whether they're in detox or they're struggling. It's like when you sit down with anybody, it's who you have rapport with. And my past gives me access into those places that other people wouldn't have access to.
You've been working in the addiction industry, for lack of a better term, but in the treatment industry, helping
Sure.
people for a handful of years now, and you've seen a lot. Because we met at a totally different situation. We were
Right.
both different places, and we ended up here. So we've both seen things. Do you think treatment is properly set up to handle first responders?
I think there's twofold. There's a lot of first responders or the thought process that it should be first responders only. And I believe that's correct in certain situations, maybe the housing, so they can de-escalate and talk about things amongst themselves. But I think it's also just like myself, who didn't have a choice because I left the police force, and I had to learn around everybody else. I think it's very important for people. We're all human beings.
Yeah.
Their job titles, and I know a lot of people say, they have this about police officers or this about people in power. But if you look at any occupation out there, there's always one or three or how many. There's always bad people in each occupation.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But you also got to understand that, if I go to a call with you, I got to worry about you backing me up because of something that I said. And the process of investigation that goes through that stuff, is time consuming. But I do believe that, I don't believe that treatment is a save-all. I believe that it's a great baseline for you to establish something. I believe aftercare is the biggest piece. Anybody can do good in a bubble for 30 or 60 days.
Yeah.
It's the aftercare piece
Agreed.
that you, when life is hitting you in the chin again, how you respond,
Mm-hmm.
what are your triggers? Do you have supports in place to deal with that stuff?
Yeah. Learning how to handle life doesn't apply until you're actually out there living your life.
Yeah.
And then you got to figure out,
Exactly.
is this working? And
Yeah.
what do I need? And most people should have follow up with personal therapies
Absolutely.
and different things. And
Absolutely.
certainly support groups and fellowships and whatever else you can get, sponsors, friends, in new things.
Just like you were saying
fun.
prior to us getting on here, what you're doing is
Yeah.
taking some people out, to learn how to have fun again without putting substances in your body.
Exactly.
That's a big piece. And everyone has a different trigger. Some people it's boredom. Some people, they say, I don't like this. Well, the thing is they don't know what they like anymore until they try it.
Yeah.
You gotta really, get out there and start doing different things. A lot of my book was about the process of what do I do now after law enforcement? Like, what do I do? Law enforcement was my entire life.
Yeah.
When I went through things, you got to understand, nobody wanted to talk to me. When I went into detox for the first time, I got, served with a restraining order. I didn't get to see my kids. My bank accounts were emptied out. I had no one to turn to, and mentally, I was in no position to deal with any of that. So
Right.
I turned to what I knew. And let me tell you what, within the book, you'll see how that escalated, how I accrued charges. And to be honest with you, it was a point in my life where, I wanted to stick my gun in my mouth. I just didn't have, I don't know if I can say it on the air, but to pull the trigger.
Yeah. No, you can say what you want to say.
Yeah,
we
man.
don't have any rules on that.
Yeah. I just didn't have the balls to pull the trigger.
Yeah, exactly.
And I did not
And
think that I was going to
becomes
live.
a self-loathing and not being able to do it too. Right. It's
Right.
like, now on top of all this other stuff, I'm a coward.
Yeah.
Because I can't even do what I know I should
Yeah.
do. And I remember those feelings myself.
But I harp on this too, is like, I never thought, like, sitting here today, Scott, I love my life.
Yeah.
I love what I do. I'm remarried. I have 3 new kids and my 2 other kids that are in Massachusetts. So I have 5 kids total.
Wow.
I love everything about my life today. You know what I mean? But I've grown, I've learned from my mistakes. I've stayed accountable, even to the stuff that I'm ashamed about. And I stay vulnerable because by being vulnerable and sharing stuff, I think that it helps out other people that may not be so open about it right now or may never be, but at least they know. You know what I mean? I went and personally got myself trained. I'm a trainer in NLP. I'm a trainer in hypnosis. I'm a trainer in time techniques. All invested stuff in myself to make myself better, so I'm more equipped to deal with other people, because that's my passion.
And you're an interventionist now too.
And I am an interventionist now as well. And
That's
I
right.
love it. I absolutely love it. I love what I do. I don't think of it as work. I wake up every day. I'm ready to go. Life brings obstacles and challenges. And you know what? You got to get up and learn how to hit the curveball.
And has there been a switch from the job defining who you are in the police officer, with police, with all first responders? It really is. I know with firefighters.
Yeah, it's funny you say that.
The job defines who you're. Now you define your job, don't you, by who you are?
I don't know, like with you saying that, it hit something in my heart for whatever reason, because that was my biggest thing when I was, trying to get my life in order, was the fact that job was what defined me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and when that was gone and everything I knew was gone, like, I didn't know what to live for anymore. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know who my friends were. I didn't know anything, and today, I can tell you something, I worked on myself years ago in terms of not being dependent on other people, not being codependent, which I've changed a lot, and I'll tell you what, being a guy who played college football, coming out of college and being a police officer, my ego was through the roof.
Right.
You know what I mean? I look back even prior to getting involved in some of that stuff, and the stuff that I've been through in my life has made me a better person, not even talking about addiction. Just in general, having empathy for other people, it's mind boggling. But when you just said that, that job defined me. And today, I get to sit up here. I get to talk with you. I have no motive except for the fact that, hey, I want to tell my story. I want to learn to be a better person. I want to help out as many people as I can, however I can do that.
See, I've seen you in action. I've seen you at work,
Mm-hmm.
and I've seen you with the other people there. And what I'm not seeing is, I'm not seeing business director. I'm not seeing this. I'm seeing Joe.
Yeah.
So you are not defining your work.
Yeah.
You're defining. So you are you.
Yeah.
And it's not just a badge or a helmet.
Right.
It's you.
Right.
Which is a beautiful thing. And I think that we're seeing this when we're working with first responders and we're seeing people. Let's forget about the addiction for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Even in retirement, there's that loss.
Yeah.
So this kind of catharsis, this reinvention that you go through with yourself, this could be helpful for everybody too, not just with addiction and everything else, because there is some sort of loss when everything you know is based on this, and now you're not doing that anymore.
Yeah. I had an example that comes up is I had a guy with in treatment with me at Legacy who was part of SWAT. He was a first responder who had retired. And part of his problem was a lot of the time that he had days off, which he rarely had days off. You know what I mean, that he had some beers with his friends. Well, when he retired, he had all this time free and he did what he usually did on his days off. Well, it escalated because that's what they did. They drank, they had fun. There's no intention behind it, but it got out of control. And then another thing was, as he worked so much, he goes, I don't even know my wife anymore. He goes, she has a set schedule where she does her nails, hair, she does this, she does that. I feel like I'm in the way. In their relationship, you know, so we did a lot of
little secret. Ask any wife. We're all in the way. Yeah. All right. We are. Just so you know.
But the secret was, you know, we did a lot of, you know, past work and NLP and stuff like that. And, you know, some of the recommendations for him was to get to know his wife again. What a great opportunity to get to know your wife again. You know, remember, I brought him back. Remember your first date when you're trying to get to know her. You know, the stupid little things that we take for granted. You know, I mean, I say it all the time. Like my current wife gets a lot better husband than my first wife. You know, my first wife, I was young, I was immature. I wanted to go play sports. I wanted to be around with my friends. I always thought I was missing something.
Yeah.
You know, and today, through all my trials and tribulations, you know, I want to be with my wife. I do things with my wife. You know, I'm into a lot of different modalities because of my wife. I love to go to meditation. She does Reiki. I love Reiki. I've tried a lot of things that back in the day I would have never done.
Imagine even talking about Reiki in the squad car.
Yeah. You imagine that? Yeah. I even talked to them today, and I was talking to one of my good friends who's now the deputy chief of where he used to work. He goes, Joe, he goes, we always talk about you. He goes, they miss me. It's unfortunate. He goes, look where you came out and look what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, and it made me feel so good inside. It made me feel really good because you always, you look for, you know, that support from, you know, I still look at them as peers.
Having somebody validate your mission is important. It's not just about our egos and anything else, but sometimes we just need to hear, and, you know, and this is a good tip for everybody out there. Tell people you appreciate them and appreciate the work that they do.
Absolutely.
Because they may not know it, and sometimes they have doubt. And when you hear it, when you're out there and you're doing your mission, and God knows the mission you and I have chosen to help people feels fruitless sometimes. There are moments when you lay in bed and you're just like, you know, I can't help anybody. I mean, we lose more than we want to. And
I say that a lot, Scott.
But we need that validation that keep going, because, you know, forever, if we try to help 100 people and only one of them gets better, that's a life. Yeah, it's important.
And I've learned a long time ago, it's that old statement, at least I use it a lot because it's true for me. I mean, I can only help those that are willing to help themselves too. Right. Do you know what I mean? I've been at Legacy since day one. I work at Legacy. The reason why I work there is because I believe in that place. I love everything that we do. We constantly change with different modalities to what is new and what's going to help the most people. You know what I mean? I love the place so much, I put my own brother and sister through there. Do you know what I mean? And that's the one thing that I can say is, like, I work at a place where I would put my own family member. And that means a lot to me. You know, at the end of the day, when I get up, you know, and I feel like I'm part of a family and you're all headed in the same direction. I mean, and that's hard to say these days, especially within this industry that I work in, but it doesn't define me. Do you know what I mean? I'm my own person. I'm not up here promoting Legacy or promoting this or promoting that. I just want to be me. I want to tell my story. Hopefully it benefits people. I wrote a book just so I can get that stuff out there about all my dirty little stuff. You know, not because I want to, and yeah, it's some of it is it's shameful, but I know I can't change that. I know that the only thing that I can change is what I do next, you know, and that's my motive. is to help as many people as I can, to correct, all the wrongs or anything that I can correct to the best of my ability, and be an honest person.
Well, let's definitely give a shout out to your friends over at Legacy and the people you work with. I mean, I've got to spend some time there, and I know when I'm in a room with one of the owners, Mark,
Yep.
Yourself, and that cast of crazy people there.
They're great.
I don't remember. I remember a few names, but they were just like, and it was like, I felt like I was in a living room with a family.
Yeah,
and they're joking and they're picking at each other and they're laughing and they're smiling because everyone in that room loves what they do. Is that like important at Legacy that you must love this work? It's
so important. I say when everyone asks us what separates us, I mean, I think it's culture. I think that any business that you have or any type, it's got to be your culture. I mean, when you come into Legacy, you be sitting there, 7 people will ask you if you want a glass of water or if you're being attended.
I saw that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just hospitality type of stuff. Like when somebody walks in and most of the people that we run into are at their worst, you got to love on them. You got to make them feel like they're wanted. You got to make them feel comfortable enough to want to get better, because we don't know what everyone's going through. I tell someone all the time, smile at everybody. You never know, even the person you walk by, what's going on in their life. And a smile could mean the best thing that happened to them that day.
So if you're looking for a facility that's going to beat people down and make them feel bad about themselves and break them so they can rebuild them, this isn't the place.
No.
This is the place where you're going to give them hope and kindness and charity right from the start.
I always say we're ladies and gentlemen, caring for ladies and gentlemen.
Legacy, what's the full name?
Legacy Healing Centers.
Legacy Healing Centers. And do you know the website?
Yeah, legacyhealing.com.
Very easy. Legacyhealing.com. Check them out. Give them a call if you want to tour or talk to anybody there.
Yeah,
do that. If you're looking to get your son, daughter, mother, father, brother, sister, husband, or wife into treatment, let's give it a little bit of research and look into it and talk to people. Check out legacyhealingcenter.com. We should not be doing more research on our car than on the place that's going to save our lives. And that's what people do. It's like, I've been looking for a car for 6 months, but I decided on a rehab in 38 seconds.
38 seconds.
Why? Because they had a picture of the ocean. Right. They're in Arizona. Yeah. I know, right? What the hell are you looking at? But
so true.
They're good people over there, and you working there, it just makes it that much better.
I appreciate that, Scott.
I want you to check out, please, badgebarsbeyond.com, and that's where you're going to get Joe's information. Find out when the book is coming out. We're all waiting. What are you doing here? Get home and start writing.
Well, the book's pretty much complete. There's some final touches I have to go through, but we're just waiting on the release right now.
Physically, is the process what you thought it would be? I mean, just for fun. I mean,
well,
did you think you'd just write down and write it, and then somebody would take it and print it? And that would be it?
It was a lot. English wasn't my best major, but the thing is I've been, the one thing I started early on was journaling. So I have everything that I needed over the years, and like I said, the book's, pretty much written already. It's just going through it and fine tuning some things, making sure that I have everything in there that I wanted to put in there. And then just basically going around talking about it. I mean, a lot of people reached out and wanted a copy. And I keep saying, hopefully at the latest early summer, probably in the spring, but we shall see.
And everybody reaches out, you're like, yeah, I'll give you a copy. Yeah, I'll get you a copy. Next thing you know, how many copies did you sell? 4, but I gave away 10,000.
You know what? But like you had said, if it's going to help somebody, so be it.
You're not writing the story to become the
I'm not writing this for
author.
Financial reasons. I'm writing this for myself selfishly.
Certainly.
And obviously, if it can help somebody out there, especially first responders that read it, or any family member, because it's, like I said, just because you have a different job than someone else doesn't make it any different.
If your job, honestly, is like a big definition of who you are in your life, then this is a book you should read.
Right.
Definitely. If your job is kind of the end all and be all of your existence, you need to read this, because unfortunately it's the role you fall into in a first responder. Sure. It has to be about your life. Just like going into the military. You don't go into the military part-time. You go all in.
Right.
But you do that as a police officer, you do that as a firefighter, you do that as a doctor or as a paramedic. You're all in. You don't get to say, I'm not going to be a firefighter today.
Right.
I'm not going to be a police officer today.
It doesn't work.
You don't get to do that.
No.
Now, I got to ask you one last question. Do you actually write with a Boston accent?
Well, am
I going to see the word Southie in this book anywhere?
Those that know me will know that it's my own words. Let's just say that.
They will know that.
They will know that it is
Beautiful.
my own words.
Beautiful. Joe, I appreciate you coming out today, man.
Thank you, Scott. And this just wasn't as bad as I hyped it up to be. I actually enjoyed myself.
No. This is actually, you did a great job. I'd love to do a follow-up sometime, maybe after the holidays.
Anytime.
And, find out what's going on with you and learn a little bit more about legacy. And of course, your mission and everything else. But
I would love that.
Happy holidays to you and your family, my friend.
You as well. Thank you.
Right. You've been watching ATC Special Edition Podcast. I'm Scott Jones, your host. Again, a reminder, if you like this show, please follow us on our YouTube channel and hit the notification bar so that you can find out when we have other shows coming up. And check out atceducation.com. It's atceducation.com to learn more about the mission of Addiction Training Center and all the things that we do here. I want to wish everybody a happy holiday. Please be safe. And remember, if somebody that you love or yourself is struggling with mental health, addiction, or any other issues, now's the time to get help. It's not after the holidays. It's not next week. It's not tomorrow. It's now. Every moment that you wait is playing Russian roulette with somebody's life. You don't want to be doing that. Get them the help that they need. You could get a hold of us at 786-514-0893 for more information. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next time.